А вот Хакимуса мой двоюродный друг. Это значит, Хаджан среди нас друг Хачамуса. А я сам Слава. Так, я буду в отличие от моих друзей.
Hello, this is the second part with the prophecies of Otrok Vyacheslav and I think in the last part of this series I will put his biography, although usually people start with the biography, but I think you will appreciate it more after you will be surprised how amazingly accurate his prophecies were. Vyacheslav said that the end times will be very dramatic, and besides all the events which we hear about from the prophecies, there will be really a lot more surprising stuff, big time surprising, that will astonish even the saints at that time. He said, even they will say, I didn't see that coming at all, and even they will wonder, what is this all about? I did not expect that. And then his mother asked him, who are these saints? Where are these people? And then Vyacheslav explained that there are 5,000 of them. These are souls surely loyal to the side of the light. None of them will accept the mark for sure. And they incarnated, he said, amongst the people that we call ordinary. They are already amongst us, even then, he said, back then 30, 40 years ago. They are here now already. They look like ordinary people, but actually they are selected even before that, because they will surely remain with the light. They will lead the people, and at the end they will transit to the new earth together with Christ, and they will be the first people from which the new human race will later on multiply. And his mother asked Slava, then why, if they're loyal for sure, these saints, why would God hide their plans even from them? You said that there are lots of events which are not in any prophecy, they have not been revealed to anybody in vision, and they are not in any book. Why would God hide that even from his own saints? And Vyacheslav explained that since these saints are now ordinary people, if there is any information in their mind, the parasites will be able to scan it, and they will know as well. So that's why the events with which Christ plans to surprise the parasites, they are not revealed to anybody at all. These 5,000 saints, they will be strongholds of angelic qualities and ordinary human sanity in mind, things which will lack big time in the apocalyptic madhouse. But will they be the only ones to meet Christ and transit to the new age? That I could not understand clearly from the material. Because on the other side, Vyacheslav said that many people will take to the forest, and they will survive there as well. These people will live through the ordeal in earth homes, earth-sheltered homes. In the beginning, they will start digging like in between the roots of the trees, because over there it will be dry, and over there they will put their supplies and rucksacks. But eventually they will make the holes bigger and bigger, and soon they will start living there as well. That will prove to be the most practical and easy to make shelter in those conditions. Many thousands of people will live in that way in Russia, some of them in small secret villages in hiding, some of them even alone. But it seems to me that the same phenomena will be there all around the world to some extent, probably in other areas, because the government tyranny will be worse in Russia. Probably over there the period will be longer, for which the people will have to be in earth homes. But even in other regions, I mean, the Vedic prophecies, they are worldwide, and over there it is clearly said at the end the people will have to run for the woods because of the tyrants. Remember Mother Shipton's words? Flee to the mountains and the dense, to bog and forest and wild fence. And also I remember years ago I was reading Native American prophecy about the shift of the ages when the winds will be not only sweeping the earth clean but also lifting its top layer, and then the man will dig holes like the fox to live in them. But after reading all these hundreds and thousands of prophecies, it really seems that in Russia the main difficulty will be the tyranny, while in the West the main difficulty, especially in America, will be the natural disasters. So I guess the periods of living in earth homes could be different in different regions. Vyacheslav was a very, very small kid, but he managed to go to the shop himself and buy these heavy tools, like for digging the ground. And he brought it back to his parents and told them, "You will need that in the future because in the forest, people will need very good quality, strong tools to dig their earth houses. And what will be happening," he explained, "with the metal production over the years before this comes, the future tools that you will be able to buy after this, they will be of such poor quality that they will break." So I don't know how much this prophecy is valid for the other regions, but for Eastern Europe, I can tell you from my own experience that whatever tools you buy now, like for digging the ground, they look solid in the shop, but it seems it's just the composition of the metal. They just bend and break. And people look for really 50, 70 years old tools. Those don't break. So how are we gonna reach such a dark state to be forced to go and hide in the forest? I tried to talk about this years ago, but then I was silenced by the loud scream of the so-called positive thinkers who accused me that I will bring down hell with my talk, and I better shut up so that with their positive thinking they will invite the new age peacefully with pink flowers and perfume. And you know, they screamed so loud that almost all of my listeners could not even hear my voice from the computer. Now their screams are not that loud because even many of them realized that their so-called only positive thinking is not gonna repair all this, because in reality it is not positive thinking, but that's another thing. And now I'm bringing back this topic with the hope that finally somebody will hear. So Otrok Vyacheslav explained, even before the open arrival of the Jal, whom Slava called the one world ruler, inside of the bodies of the people they will place what he called microschema in Russian. That was the early word for a chip. Later on, people even there adopted the Western word chip. But earlier, it was microschema. Actually, in his circle of his family in the province, it was too early. They didn't even know the word microschema, and they were asking him, "What is this?" And he said, like metal things, devices for zombification, and also tracing and recording everything that people speak. And then he would draw to them how would a chip look like. He also left a hint as of the size of these microschemas, the chips. He said not only the people, almost all people, but also they will put that in the animals, in the cats and the dogs, and even the ants and the worms. The one world ruler will appear on the world politic stage suddenly and unexpectedly, but only after almost all people have that inside them and the entire system with his new passports is already introduced. Slava spoke about this Exactly as I tell it to you, and the text which I'm using as a source is not recent, it's an old text. So initially he said there will be a very short period in which they will be micro-scheming, so to say, the people, only if they consent themselves. However, that will be very, very short. And soon after that, they will have these devices, they will point at the person, and if the microschema inside doesn't answer, they will hunt them down and place the microschema by force. These armed units, they will be doing that themselves. By then, it will be police state everywhere, all around the globe, and all towns and roads will be controlled by these very high-tech equipped military units. He says that by then they will simply abolish the idea of maintaining an army in Russia. This will not suit their purpose, and instead they will transfer the people into what would be called Бригадой быстрого реагирования. In English, that would be something like a unit for immediate response. And that's exactly what they would do. In case they get a doubt that somebody somewhere has a different opinion, they will be there in no time with their high-tech weapons, and there will be nobody left. And they will not bother to explain anything to the public, who and why and what's going on. In the past, Slava explains the tyrants, they would bother to make up some sort of silly excuses for the public. There will be no such thing. And as of today, they are beginning to form such units, and they are called exactly Бригада быстрого реагирования. Without any similarity, just the exact same phrase. While when the prophecies were made, at that time in Russia, people were not using even the word police, and when he was talking about police, they were trying to correct him, because at that time the word that they were using was militia, and only later on it would become politia, which is police in English. So when he was talking to the people, they were even confused with earlier terms. They didn't even know that they will have a police, so what to speak of such units. So all in all, I can say that the accuracy of his prophecies is beyond amazing. So when they start openly hunting down the people, at that time, then the noble souls, that will be the last big exodus. They will all just pack and go away wherever their eyes see. There will be at that time still some sincere souls left in the cities, and Vyacheslav promised that angels will be intervening very actively and will be guiding them to safety. But he also said that such help will be for those who would really had not had a chance before that to make their own arrangements. As far as the future, for what is now called, ironically at least for me, a healthcare system, it will be like this. They will have these booths at the entry of every hospital, and you must enter, and it will detect you if you have the microschema inside. If you don't, the door will be locked for you. And even at that point, actually many people will decide this is fishy, and many people will withdraw from healthcare at a very early stage. They will prefer even to die if needed at home, rather to get microschema. They will think this doesn't look good. Once Vyacheslav saw that his mother is cleaning the cupboard, and she's throwing away expired medicines. But then he tried to convince her that it will be much better to keep them instead of throwing them. And she said, "Why? What is all this fuss about? These are old, we'll buy better, new ones, these are expired." And he explained that what actually will be happening is that he said now these are medicines, they are really made to cure people. But as the time goes, they will be putting more and more poison inside, together with the healing stuff. And towards the end, it will be only poison. And at that time, when people will start dying and getting severely sick en masse immediately upon taking the so-called medicines, only then all people will simply abandon the hospitals, and there will be no central healthcare system anymore. Now, in terms of timing, from everything I've heard from the Vyacheslav material, it also appears that we are not really yet in the tribulation, but we are just very, very close. Because he gave details about the fall of communism, about Gorbachev, about Eltsin. I'm not including all that detail because the volume of the material will become very big. About Putin, he said very little. He said, and then will come a man who will not belong to any party. That's all he said about, or at least that's all we remember. His mother remembers that he said about Putin. And then when his time is over, then everything will start unfolding very, very fast, like a whirlpool. So that's why I have added the end of the Putin era here, as one of the signs of the beginning of the pre-tribulation. Vyacheslav also mentioned the giant meteorite which we saw flying towards the earth in the episode of the Nina Prophecies. He gave a bit more detail. It will be absolutely massive, and when we see it, or the penguins, when they see it flying towards us in the telescopes, they will agree upon the most stupidest solution a person of real knowledge would think about, and that would be to gather all the nuclear weapons on Earth and bomb the moon, thus hoping that somehow with that explosion will bounce the meteorite in space, and also they will try to increase the velocity of Earth, which Otrok Vyacheslav also said is absolute nonsense, because the Earth does not rotate anyway, and it doesn't fly like crazy, it's actually quite stable. There will be an entire video about what his mother remembers about the structure of the Earth. So as far as the meteorite, luckily the penguins will not manage to carry out the nuclear plan, which would actually really blow the Earth. God will not allow. He doesn't want the Earth blown up at this moment. So they will not manage to complete their plans on time, something which Nina also mentioned. But the meteorite itself, without any intervention, will not destroy Earth. I don't know if that is the more positive path, which Nina also mentioned. She mentioned two possibilities, that it hits the Earth or not. So, does this mean that Vyacheslav sees the path of not hitting the Earth, or maybe there is just a partial impact and that's why the entire Earth is not destroyed? Maybe still there could be some impact, I don't know. But the meteorite is there also in his prophecies. Now, he also spoke about the times when the natural disasters will be so intense that there will be no state, country organization as such, just because people will be too busy struggling to survive on personal level or community level, regions will govern themselves independently. And it seems, I'm saying only it seems, it is not said so explicitly in his prophecies, that this could be like a period of 2 or 3 years, starting somewhere during the pre-tribulation, and maybe it will be over, maybe later on, when the Dajjal comes. There seems to be at that time again organized world, in the sense of the institution of the country reviving itself again for a very short period, because at the later stage of the tribulation, especially after the War of Armageddon, it will be so hard that there will be no question of countries. It will be just trees occasionally sticking out of the sands of the ruined earth. So then I was wondering, if now they're marking the people and later on it will be such a chaos that there will be no states even, then how are they gonna implement in the future, I mean, managing the population with using these microschemas inside? So what I gather after reading so many prophecies is that many of them speak about two stages. That first they will mark the people with the initial stage, and then there will be a gap, probably this whatever 2 or 3 years, that there will be too many disasters to organize the people properly. And then everybody says in the prophecies that subsequently everybody who took the initial papers, they will all take the proper mark later on. And this is what Vyacheslav said. Initially they will have only microschemas inside, and only later on they will have the proper mark. And even back then, when Otrok Vyacheslav was still alive, with his internal vision, he saw that some nuns in Russia have already started digging like the trenches, like tunnels, which later on will be used like earth homes. And at that time already they started stacking with provisions. He said everything will last. It's a very cold region and they make special packing. Everything will last until the end. And they're so frail, these women, but because they have to keep it secret, only the initiated in the project, they're so frail and weak, but they go and every day and dig these trenches, and the provisions which they make are not only enough for the monastery with their, of course, very scarce finances, but they're already planning for all these people who will be running from the cities without a shelter or any food preparedness. So the name of that monastery or nunnery is not really mentioned by his mother, but she remembers the name of another monastery in Sergiev Posad. There will be some real monks there, and they will happen to know about the ancient tunnels, which are not, which are still partially usable, and they're very long. They stretch for many kilometers. So what they will do is they will prepare well, especially with paraphernalia for worship, like candles and all these. I don't understand the details very well. Orthodox rituals, they require all kinds of ingredients as well. So they will have a very good stack with that, and this will be one of the unique places where true Christian service, without the contamination of the Dajjalic distortion which will come with the change of the symbols and change of the rituals. No, they will just hide and continue the true Christian service and will pray there until Christ does not arrive. And they will meet him. They will really wait for him. They will not prepare much food. they will not eat actually much. I think this phenomena was explained by Alexander Paramonov, that when people with high consciousness don't eat, they start to get nutrition for their bodies directly from the ether, without the need of swallowing anything tangible. And also, Otrok Vyacheslav said that in many regions where there will be really no food, the noble people, God will put such a protection on them that they will remain well, and actually they will not be even hungry when they don't eat. They will survive. And as far as what is now famous as the main Lavras, clusters of monastery of Christianity in Russia, near Moscow, near Kiev, if you look at official information, these are supposed to be the centers of Orthodox Christianity. In this future time, which will be in the very near future, by then the monks would have degraded so much that they will be mostly busy working around the monastery, very trivial things, and they will not study much. And when the apocalyptic scenario develops, they will have no clue what's happening. They won't react in a special way, just they will disperse as the natural disasters and the difficulties come, without doing anything special.